Immigration.
Michael, will you promote me to panelist, please? Are we live on Zoom, on YouTube?
We're live. Grace, thank you for the good news. I will call to order a special meeting of the governing body, June 30th. My clock says 6:56 p.m. We'll begin with Pledge of Allegiance, which Councilor Maraworth can lead us in. Salute to the New Mexico flag if Councilor Castro will lead us, and invocation and remembrances if Councilor Faulkner will lead us. Please.
Soy la bandera del Estado de Nuevo México, el símbolo día de amistad perfecta entre culturas unidas.
So for the invocation, I want to first acknowledge my aunt is in hospice and she has chosen to go on to the next part of her life or her cycle. She was an incredible inspiration to all of us. There's at least 15 to 25 or maybe actually probably more like 50 or 60 cousins who she influenced and had an incredible impact on our life decisions. And so I just want to send love out to all of my cousins and to my parents' generation because they're losing one of their dear friends. And just send love out to my family. As far as leadership, I would like us to remember that we are all teachers as human beings. Every single person on the planet is a teacher. And we don't get to decide who our students are. Our students will find us and we don't have influence on who decides we're teachers for them. And that being said, I think it's important that we remember that we're setting an example. And we could be setting an example for a 5-year-old and we can be setting an example for someone in their 80s or 90s or like the spectrum is large on this. And so as leaders, I just want to remind us that we're teaching people what leadership looks like. And in that context, we need to remember that none of this is personal. We may be very passionate about the issues we care about, but we need to remember that we're human beings trying to solve problems for other human beings and with other human beings. And in that process, we are teaching each other and the community what leadership looks like and how human beings should treat each other. And in this very divisive political world that we're living in, I think it's really important that those of us who can recognize that we set the example and we should set the best example, even when we don't agree.
Thank you, Councilor. Are there other remembrance? Go ahead, Councilor.
Thank you so much for that, Councilor Faulkner. And I briefly want to also invoke the idea of unity. There was a shooting at Stonewall. And I think it's really important that we realize not everyone is safe in these moments, but we're with you. We had someone in Chambers last week also very upset about things that are happening around the world. We can't fix all of the problems, but we are trying our best to be good leaders for you and to represent you as best we can.
Thank you. Other folks to be remembered? I just send out my own meditations in this moment that we should all embrace the power of helpful thoughts, of prayers, of sentiment sent out to people we care about who may be suffering, who may be in pain, who may be in circumstances that really try them and tax them beyond anything we could imagine. And we should all be with them, whether it's in actual presence or through sending out our own thoughts and prayers to them to help them through their troubled times. So with that, let's take a minute and think about people who've been mentioned and think about people in the community today who are struggling, who could use help, who could use support, could use our prayers. Thanks, everybody. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll? We have a number of people who are excused.
Counselor Cassett. She's excused.
She's excused.
Counselor Castro.
Presente.
Counselor Chavez. She's
I
excused.
believe she's excused as well.
Counselor Faulkner.
Here.
Counselor Lee Garcia.
Here.
Counselor Michael Garcia.
Present.
Counselor Lindell.
She is excused as well.
Counselor Romero Worth.
I'm here.
Mayor Weber.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. We get unless there are changes to the agenda, Madam Clerk?
Move to approve.
Second.
No changes.
Very good. There's a motion and a second. Is there discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion has been approved, Madam Clerk, I believe, by a voice vote. Could you take us to the first item on the agenda then, please?
Yes. 8A, action discussion agenda, request for approval of the June 11th, 2025 regular governing body meeting minutes. Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion to approve those minutes. Is there any changes or amendments? Would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Castro.
Yes.
Counselor Faulkner.
Yes.
Counselor Lee Garcia.
Yes.
Counselor Michael Garcia.
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth.
Yes.
Mayor Weber.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. If you'd take us to the next item then?
Item 8B, request for approval renewal of comprehensive insurance program for plan year 2025 through 2026 through the city's insurance broker, Arthur J. Gallagher, for a total of $3,959,968.57. And here to speak is Andrea Phillips. Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion, but I think be useful to get for people who are listening and for people who are not deeply familiar with the subject and why we're doing this tonight. If you could walk us through that, that'd be super.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, good evening. I really appreciate your time and you coming for a special governing body meeting this evening to hear this. This is the end of our fiscal year, and unfortunately, the timing is such that we will have a lapse in coverage unless this is approved this evening. Now, certainly council can make amendments if you decide to do that, but it would mean an impact to our general and other lines of insurance moving forward. There were some great questions and discussion that came up during the Public Works Committee meeting as to what the changes were from the last plan year to this plan year. The good news is that our insurance premiums have actually gone down. There's about 14 different carriers that Gallagher, AJ Gallagher, works with to receive quotes and coverages. Our excess liability will be structured slightly differently moving forward, and it will save the city money. So we will be moving from a $1.5 million self-insured retention to $1 million, and that premium has also decreased. We'll be restructuring it so that law enforcement liability will be covered under a different carrier than what our general excess liability will be covered under. So through the work of our risk management office and the rest of the city team, we're really keeping an eye on those areas for potential exposure and risk and trying to do the best that we can to ensure that we have good training and policies and procedures in place so that we can help to reduce those risks moving forward. So I do want to thank Melanie Lovato here with our risk management office for her help, as well as the city attorney's office and finance in bringing this forward. We talked about trying to move on to a different schedule moving forward so that this isn't being done at the start of the fiscal year. So I think that's something that we'll be working with internally so that we're not doing this at a crunch time in the future.
Thank you. Are there questions, Counselor Castro?
Just briefly, so will that separate contract for law enforcement be approved separately?
Yeah, so what we have before you this evening is authority to bind those coverages. So that is part of the contract with AJ Gallagher, and that's in the proposal to bind with each one of those lines of coverage and each one of those carriers.
So we will be seeing those before us in the future.
Well, what
As individual contracts, or we are just approving you to authorize them?
yeah, we're actually asking you to approve entering into insurance with each one of those carriers through AJ Gallagher and authorizing those premiums. And the proposal details are in your packet. Once we enter into those agreements, we'll be getting, I think they call it a binder, but it'll be all of the details on that. And we can certainly bring it before you, but there won't be an additional contract per se that you'll need to enter into with each one of those carriers individually.
Perfect. So then I would just request some sort of report back once we do finally sign those contracts. Thank you so much, and I cede the floor.
Thank you. Other questions? There are no other questions, Madam Clerk. There is a motion and a second. If you could call the roll.
Counselor Faulkner, Counselor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth,
Yes.
Counselor Castro, Mayor Weber.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight. We appreciate it. Could you take us to the next item, Madam Clerk?
Item 8C, request for approval of amendment number 1 to general services contract item number 2024-0715 with Paradise Power Company, Inc. for implementation of the Balanced Resources Acquisition and Information Network, BRAIN, to extend the term to June 30th, 2026. And here to speak is Karen Gross, Public Works Project Manager.
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and there's a second. Thank you for being here. If you could open up the brain for us, we'd like to see what's inside.
Mr. Mayor and councilors, thank you very much for hearing this tonight. We've made great progress on the brain. We have just submitted deliverable number 3 to the state. Thank you also for approving the grant extension with the state that has already been returned to them. Unfortunately, this amendment with PPC got hung up a little bit in the review process, and I really appreciate you taking the time to hear it tonight. So MNERD had advised staff that the grid modernization grant funding could be extended. And this extra time will allow us to incorporate additional features into the brain. The grant amendment has already been approved by the governing body and returned to the state. This amendment will extend the vendor's term. And so it's really great that you're willing to consider this tonight. As we had presented back in December, the BRAIN, Balanced Resource Acquisition and Information Network, is an energy management system which allows the user to see energy usage in nearly real time, shift resources in conjunction with demand and production of renewable energy, as well as see where building systems are in need of attention and send maintenance teams to assess and make repairs. The BRAIN provides an integrated data repository with machine learning neural network-based predictive models and both internal and public-facing dashboards. Unfortunately, the AV is down tonight, so I'm not able to show you an overview of the BRAIN. We actually do have the platform in process now. And I look forward to giving you a tour of it in our conference room here in the very near future. The big touch screen is supposed to be installed at the end of July, and we'll be happy to show it off after that point.
Beautiful. I wish we could do it tonight.
Mayor,
Yes.
just one thing, if our speaker could talk about what MNERD is.
Yes.
Good point.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Madam Councilor. MNERD is the Energy Minerals Natural Resources Division of the state of New Mexico. In fact, we are actually working with a subdivision of that called ECAM.
I
And-
think it's a department, right? Energy, Minerals and Natural Resources Department.
You're correct.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay.
And this is actually a federal grant that is passed through the state. And we had applied for and received a grant of $550,000 for this project.
Thank you. Any other questions this time? If there are no other questions, thank you for the explanation, and we would love to schedule a presentation. I think it'd be wonderful to see it in action.
I was hoping to actually be able to show it off a little bit tonight. We do have a web platform already. Unfortunately, the AV is down, so.
We'll take a rain check. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Counselor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth.
Yes.
Counselor Castro,
Yes.
Counselor Faulkner,
Yes.
Mayor Weber.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
And if you'd take us to the next item.
Item 8D, request for approval of amendment number 2 to professional services agreement, item number 23-0544 with Holt Zollers, Inc. for the design of administrative offices and maintenance facility to extend the term to June 30th, 2026. And here to speak is Karen Gross, Public Works Project Manager 3.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Once again, if you could give us an overview of the item, so everybody who's listening, watching, and here could be the beneficiary of that explanation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councilors. The plans for the new Environmental Services Division's operation and maintenance buildings began development a couple of years back. Last year, Amendment 1, which added scope for design of the access road, as well as extending the original contract, was approved. However, shortly thereafter, there was some discussion of changing the location for this building. Since that time, Mr. Garcia, who was spearheading the process, has retired. On May 15th, the Environmental Services Division asked facilities to please help get the process back on track. We're starting with an extension to the amendment to continue the design work for the originally selected site.
Thank you. Are there questions? If there are no questions, Madam Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Counselor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Romero Worth,
Yes.
Counselor Castro,
Yes.
Counselor Faulkner,
Yes.
Counselor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Mayor Weber.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, I believe that completes the agenda for tonight. I really want to thank everybody for coming in on very short notice to handle these matters and get them done before the end of the fiscal year. And I know you already had one long meeting, so appreciate the double duty. With that, we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.